Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Lenovo Legion Go and compare it against the PlayStation Portal and see which particular type of, gaming handheld is the better one for you. Now, the thing I will tell you is that both of these gaming handhelds are a little bit different for the most part. The Lenovo Legion Go is a dedicated gaming handheld with its own operating system, and you can go ahead and play games wherever you want to. The PlayStation Portal is a little bit different. This was originally supposed to be only a streaming device. So you would basically go through and just, basically stream games from your console, your PlayStation 5 that you own, into your PlayStation Portal, thus making it somewhat of like a portable type of PlayStation. So that right there is one of those types of things to keep in mind here, right? That was supposed to be that type of console. Right now with the PlayStation Portal, it does have more capability than it did before, but that is just one of those types of things to keep in mind there as well. So we'll take a look at these throughout this whole entire video, but if you do want to go ahead and pick up either one of these types of handhelds, links will be down in the description below. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the PlayStation Portal. The first thing to remember is that this type of gaming console, like I mentioned, this one originally came out as a streaming device from a PlayStation. So if you own some sort of a PlayStation device, then this thing is basically going to be going through and giving you a little bit of a better type of experience with your games, because it does give you the capability of linking straight to your PlayStation 5 and playing your PlayStation 5 games inside of this type of console. So that right there is something that's really cool. It's something that, kind of breathed more life inside of PlayStations, to be honest, because they were already so good. But now having this dedicated streaming device is actually really awesome. It has an 8-inch display on the front side, and that right there is still also something that's really cool going on for this type of gaming console as well. So I definitely will tell you, in my personal opinion, that's something that's really cool that was going on originally for these types of gaming consoles when it came down to it. Now, on the Lenovo Legion Go, this one is giving you an 8.8-inch display. So that right there is something really interesting to kind of keep in mind here, because that is going to be giving you an overall better type of experience when it comes down to it from that side as well. So that right there is another really cool thing. It's a bigger display, it's also higher resolution, and it's giving you a 144 Hz display at that as well. So that right there is also going to be something that's really, really cool. And going through and getting a device like that, I think, is also going to be something that's really awesome. And personally for me, I am also a really big fan of that as well. And going through and getting that type of display, I will say the Lenovo Legion Go is giving you an overall better type of display than the PlayStation 5 Portal or PlayStation Portal. But here's the interesting thing about the PlayStation Portal. This console, I think, overall feels better and more premium than something like the Lenovo Legion Go. The Legion Go still feels good, it doesn't feel insanely cheap or anything like that, but I think there's something with the controller and the layout of the PlayStation Portal that I actually like a lot. And because it's not really like a super dedicated console, it's just supposed to be like a streaming device, this thing doesn't necessarily have to have the most amount of power inside of it or have an operating system that's not at like a super high level. You're not really going to be using that too much, if that makes sense. Like, you're basically just going to be able to go through and just get like a standard type of experience here, but it's not really going to be anything super crazy because you're still getting like you're still streaming it on a PlayStation Portal. Whereas on the Lenovo Legion Go, all that type of experience that you're getting there, that whole entire layout, is all going to be happening on the system. So on the system chip, you're basically going to be able to go through and experience that on that type of system. So that right there is also going to be another one of those things to keep in mind here as well. So in my personal opinion, if you are going to go through and get a device like this, that is going to be another one of those things to keep in mind there as well. So like I said, personally for me, I don't know if necessarily it's the biggest deal in the world, but I do like the design of the PlayStation Portal maybe a little bit more than the Lenovo Legion Go. Another really interesting thing to keep in mind here as well, though, is that when you actually do take a look at both these consoles, with something like the PlayStation Portal, this type of console is actually going to be able to go through and basically give you like that streaming experience. But the Lenovo Legion Go gives you the experience of having these two controllers that actually come out on the sides of the Lenovo Legion Go. So this is actually something that's really awesome and really cool, and you do get to experience that there inside of that type of device. So personally for me, I do feel like going through and getting that type of console is something that's actually pretty sick. It is actually pretty nice. And it does kind of give you like a little bit more like a cooler type of layout, I would say, within that type of console compared to something like a, Lenovo Legion, compared to something like a, PlayStation Portal. So I do think from that side, that is kind of a cool thing going on there as well. Now, on top of that, when it comes down to their operating systems, this is a very important thing to keep in mind here as well. So the PlayStation Portal, it's a streaming device, connects mostly on Wi-Fi. You're not really going to be going through and experiencing like massive types of issues here when it comes down to like your device. But it's also not going to be experiencing any like big, massive, other things going on here too. Like when you go through and use something like a PlayStation Portal, it doesn't really need a lot of power on the system. On the Lenovo Legion Go, this one is going to be slightly different. This one is basically going to go through and it's basically giving you a little bit of a better type of experience because it has an actual operating system inside of it. Like it has Windows 11 inside of this console, which is actually pretty insane. Like going through it and getting Windows 11 inside of this type of device, I think is something that's really awesome. And I think this is in and of itself a really cool thing here. So again, maybe it isn't necessarily perfect, but I do think if you are going to go through and get a, gaming console or a handheld gaming console, this is a really good type of option because it does actually give you like pretty good type of, experience, and you get to go ahead and play all those Windows games that you currently own. So all those Windows 11 games that you basically already own, you have the capability here of kind of going through and essentially using it. So that in and of itself changes the game once again. Having that type of capability right there is something that's so cool. And I do feel like personally, if I'm going to go through and get a gaming console or a handheld one, having that type of capability of having a dedicated one just like that, with its games on there, I can play offline, I can play on the go, and I can even play multiplayer by just going through and disconnecting the controllers like a Nintendo Switch. That is something that's really cool. And I, for one, I'm a massive fan of that when it comes down to this type of console. So I feel like the Lenovo Legion Go does have kind of an edge there, but when it comes down to the price tag, these two things are not the same price, right? You have to remember that. These two are very different price tags when it kind of comes down to it. The PlayStation Portal costs about $200 right now, and it also requires a PlayStation 5. So you have to get a PlayStation 5 and you have to have this. So it does cost kind of a bit of money. With something like the Lenovo Legion Go, this thing costs $700. So in some ways, you could probably go through and get a PlayStation 5 and a PlayStation Portal cheaper than something like a Lenovo Legion Go. So it just depends if you get like a used PlayStation 5 with like a used PlayStation Portal. That's kind of what ends up happening here inside of that type of device. So you are probably going to be getting a much better type of experience here inside of that type of device when it comes down to it. So personally for me, again, that's just kind of one of those other takeaways. Again, it just depends on kind of the way you look at it. But from what I'm seeing, that is kind of one of the main things to kind of keep in mind here as well. So when it comes down to it, in my personal opinion, when you are going to go through and use this type of device, if you're looking at the Lenovo Legion Go, and if you're looking at, the PlayStation Portal, which one is going to be the better one for you? I probably will tell you from what I'm seeing, from my opinion, it does make probably a lot more sense to go through and buy something like a Lenovo Legion Go. Although it can be kind of the more expensive one depending on who you are, that one does kind of seem to me that it is kind of the better one, probably for the most part. That's the one that makes more sense to me. And I feel like this in and of itself is going to be one of those type of takeaways here as well. So when I'm looking at it, it does make a lot more sense in my personal opinion to go ahead and buy something like the Lenovo Legion Go. It has its own dedicated operating system inside of it. It's going to be probably the better type of experience here. And personally for me, that's just kind of the way I see it for the most part. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out, Swollen.